I'm Camille Cower, and welcome to Bridge Builders. Bridge Builders is more than a term or phrase. It's the personification of mentors, community leaders, institutions, business people, ministers, and everyday people from all walks of life. A docuseries created with a passion for storytelling about people who've made significant impacts on society, changing the course of history, enriching lives throughout the decades. This episode will feature members of the Triad. We'll begin with Robert Brown, a major player in affairs of state on the world stage, corporate consulting, and the civil rights movement. Then a look back in history of the Quakers' pivotal role in the Underground Railroad, risking their lives, assisting slaves on their path to freedom. Told by Dr. Max Carter and Dr. Adrian Israel. We'll also feature Shirley Fry and Judge Henry Fry, a dynamic couple who have been pillars of the community for decades, influencing and shaping lives, inspiring many. Then Bishop Sir Walter Mack Jr., who's not only a minister, but also a well-respected community leader and force of nature, dismantling racial injustices. These bridge builders not only shattered the glass ceiling, they kicked it in. We'll be right back with their amazing stories after these messages.
Our kids, no matter who they are, what color they are, and what religion they belong to, they need to know where they come from and who those people were who paved the way for them. Everybody has a place in America. And we need to know that and respect that, because this is the greatest country on earth. And we need to make sure that our young people know that and know what their history is, know how we got to where we are.
FOX8 celebration of Black History Month sponsored by High Point University.
High Point University is the premier life skills university where student transformation is focused on personal initiative and extraordinary career outcomes.
High Point University gives you 1,000,001 amazing opportunities.
What life skills truly means is being able to go the level above. You learn from the textbooks and understanding the knowledge, yes, but then you have to take it and apply it. That practicality just made sense to me.
The opportunities available here are unlike at any other school.
Choose to be extraordinary at High Point University.
These were dangerous times for black men and women in South Africa.
In the Deep South, it is a dog whistle for Confederacy keeping things the way they were.
Leaders of the white minority marginalized, terrorized the black majority with murders, beatings, bombings, and torture.
This story of the Underground Railroad, the fact that there was a massive interracial civil disobedience movement, all of this is important.
The racists in the apartheid government were well aware of my friendship with their high-profile prisoner, resistance leader Nelson Mandela.
Today, we face major issues that challenge our own morals, that challenge our own ability to find the courage.
My suggestion to you is to do what you think is right.
We begin the show with Robert Brown, a native of High Point, and perhaps one of the most famous people you've never heard of. Amongst his peers, he's well regarded as an American treasure. His many achievements in the federal government, education, business, and the tumultuous 1960s civil rights movements has left an unmatched legacy throughout history that most mere mortals could only dream of. He's lived a rare life, having a ringside view to a number of historic moments, creating positive changes within the system. Whether it was the government or Fortune 500 companies, convincing Wall Street and former presidents, it's not always a fight between Republicans and Democrats. He says it's a fight for Black folks and the needs of our communities. We ought to be about the business of protecting the interest of Black people. He's known in every corner of the world, but can fit in with anyone, any color, heads of state to the average person. From gifting South African children with a cargo ship of books during the apartheid era, to a multitude of countless other compassionate missions. He's undoubtedly a giant amongst men and highly respected worldwide. Meet Robert Brown, bridge builder with Carol Andrews.
Bob Brown's life reads like a well-crafted novel, one full of high-stakes meetings with world leaders, political adversaries, a stint with the FBI, and even an unlikely partnership with an American president. Not only did Bob Brown stand at the doorstep of historical social change, he was one of the architects.
There's something about love that builds up and is creative, Martin once said. There's something about hate that tears down and is destructive. So love your enemies. He lived that belief, as did Nelson Mandela, and they moved mountains. As for me, I stayed mostly in the shadows and did not seek the limelight. My job, as I saw it, was to offer my help wherever it was needed, to work quietly to bring differing people together for a greater good.
Working for the greater good was always at the forefront of each chapter in Brown's storied career, something that was ingrained in him as a child by his grandmother, Nellie.
She said, God is going to take you where you can't even dream. So you just keep on trusting in the Lord and being the best person you can be every day of your life. She said, God will take care of you. She said, he'll raise you where you can't dream of, boy. So you just do what you need to do.
Brown's first job, a police officer with the High Point Police Department. He accepted the position while enrolled as a sophomore at North Carolina A&T State University. He says it was a first step on what would become an incredible journey. His stellar work on the force quickly moved him up the ranks and drew the interest of the FBI after he assisted on one of the Bureau's local cases. Not long after, Brown officially joined the FBI, and his work as a federal agent soon caught the attention of Bobby Kennedy, who invited Bob Brown to join his presidential campaign.
I was working with Bobby Kennedy when he was running for president, and he came and followed me one night to see me make a case on the mafia. And when he decided to run for president, he told me, he said, look, I'm going to run, Bob. I need your help, and so forth. And I said, you got it, you know. And we started running with that until he was killed.
By this time, Brown was widely recognized as an experienced bridge builder throughout business and political circles. This skill set would land him at the forefront of the civil rights movement alongside Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Let the nation and the world know we are tired now. We are going to walk non-violently and peacefully to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children.
And eventually, at the White House. So you're going around the country, you're making contacts, you're in your car, you're doing all of this, and that lands you with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
I got some corporate people, a few others that I knew, other people, to donate money to him. And because they had no money, and they were desperate in many instances.
So that made you, in that time of your life, a connector. And do you find that was your calling?
I found out that I was pretty good at that. I'd go to the civil rights meetings, and then I would go there and ask them, see what they're doing, and see how I could be helpful, how I could be helpful to resolve things, how I could be helpful to get black people jobs that they'd never had before, and working with the corporations to infuse black people in jobs and get contracts and everything else. Then the companies would see how it would help them, and I would show them how it would help them.
And then you get a call, and there's a need at the White House.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That call came from Richard Nixon's campaign staff at the behest of the candidate. Brown smiles at the memory of a Republican campaign seeking help from a registered Democrat.
They said, man, we've been looking for you. We want you to work with us. And I said, you know, I'm a Democrat, man. They said, oh, we don't care what you are. We just want your contacts and your brain and your skills. And I said, well, I don't know whether I want to do that. I've never done anything like this for the Republican Party. And so I went to lunch with them. And the lunch lasted about 4 or 5 hours. It ended up where I told them that I'm not going to change my registration, but I will work with you guys. I'll work with you 2 days a week. The 2 days a week turned into 4 days the first week. And from then on, it was one thing that happened behind another.
Bob Brown would become special assistant to the president during Nixon's first term in office, creating the Office of Minority Business Enterprise, advocating for increased aid to historically black colleges and universities, and increasing the number of black officers in the military. And so you were with President Nixon. Then you got a call from the president of South Africa, too. At the height of apartheid, Brown met with then South African President P.W. Botha. During this highly charged moment in history, Brown's reputation as a skillful intermediary helped lay the foundation for Nelson Mandela's release.
On one occasion when I was down there, President Botha, who was one of the architects of apartheid, the worst segregationists on earth, sent 2 of his security people to tell me that he wanted to see me before I left his country. And I thought maybe they wanted to kill me. I mean, that's what I initially thought. I mean, he asked me all kinds of questions about apartheid, about what I had seen in his country. But at various times during that conversation, he got really upset with me because I told him what freedom was like.
What gave you the boldness to speak your mind?
Because I felt that I needed to, for all those people who were living there under great oppression. And I felt that God had brought me to this moment where I had to speak the truth. I said, if I have to lose my life, I have to lose my life.
So walk me through the gates of that prison, like I'm beside you and you were going to meet Mr. Mandela.
God had his gun up. He said, stop, who are you? I said, my name is Robert Brown. I'm here to see Mr. Mandela. There was guys with guns over the top of the gate. Says, open the gate. Mr. Brown is here. Somebody pushed the door, boom, just like that, bam. And I said, oh, Lord, I know they're going to kill me now. I knew that's what I had. So this big, tall Afrikaner, white guy, walks out. He stretches his hand out to me. He says, Mr. Brown, welcome to Portsmouth Prison. You are so welcome, sir. Thank you for coming. I'm the chief warden here, and I'm having Mr. Mandela brought down from his cell right now. He came in the room. He came in the room. He walked in. He says, Bob Brown, thank you. Thank you for coming, and thank you for what you're doing for my family. See, I had brought his daughter, Zanani, who's now ambassador to South Korea, and her husband, Prince Muzi, who was the son of the king of Swaziland, and their 3 children, all here to go to school. He was expressing how grateful he was to me, not only for bringing his children. He had heard some kind of way that I'd changed things in South Africa.
When you hear the word bridge builder, looking at the scope of your life, what does that mean to you?
If you're building a bridge, you're trying to help somebody. That's what we're supposed to be about. That's what the world is supposed to be about.
Though the storied life of Bob Brown is still being written, it's safe to say that this bridge builder is ready for the next chapter.
There was an old song they used to sing in the church when we go to church. I want to be ready. I want to be ready. I want to be ready when the Lord calls me home. And that's what I want to do. I want to be ready.
When I think of Black History Month and the pioneers that have come before me, I ask myself 2 very important questions. What can I do and what will I do? I can have limitless possibilities, and I will be a beacon of light for others to follow.
FOX8 proudly celebrates Black History Month. Sponsored by the North Carolina Education Lottery.
College is very expensive. When I found out I had the North Carolina Education Lottery Scholarship, I was overjoyed. I knew that this scholarship would help me to continue my dream of my education.
The better we can provide education for our future generations, the better the future will be. We are so blessed to have this new school. The funds that we received from the North Carolina Education Lottery were a huge part of that.
A college education means pretty much everything to me. You know, I can do this.
Early in the morning, every minute counts. That's why we give you a forecast every 8 minutes. Why wait? Get your weather every 8 minutes. Weekday mornings from 5 to 7 a.m. only on the FOX8 Morning News. Start local, stay local.
FOX8 proudly celebrates Black History Month. Join us Monday at 7:30 as we honor the achievements and legacies of African Americans in the Triad. Honoring Black History, Monday at 7:30 on FOX8.
On our way, side by side, every day. We'll go far as long as we got each other to discover this world we're making now together. So let's start today.
We'll now embark on a riveting journey through the dynamic history of multiracial civil disobedience. The Society of Friends was founded in England by George Fox and others in the early 1600s. In 1650, according to Fox, Justice Bennet of Derby called them Quakers because, quote, "we bid them tremble at the word of God." They referred to themselves as children of the light and friends of the truth. Their faith was considered so fanatical in England that they were tormented for it. Their search for religious freedom led them to the Americas in the mid-1650s, settling in Pennsylvania and other eastern states. The Quakers' crusade to abolish slavery began in the late 1600s. Many people think that any house owned by a Quaker was a stop on the Underground Railroad. William Wells Brown, a self-liberated slave who later worked for the Underground Railroad and became a novelist, once wrote, "No fugitive was ever betrayed by a Quaker." Carol Andrews talks with Underground Railroad scholars Dr. Max Carter and Dr. Adrian Israel, retired Guilford College professors, who will explain the crucial role of the Society of Friends.
The Underground Railroad, formed to help slaves from the South escape to freedom, consisted of dozens of safe houses along covert routes extending all the way to the Canadian and Mexican borders. Volunteer conductors, with little regard for their own lives, broke laws to guide runaways to safety. The success of the railroad depended on cooperation and trust between both black and white abolitionists. Some were runaway slaves who came back to rescue those left behind. Others were free blacks who risked being enslaved. A third part of this organized movement, Quakers, whites who stood to lose just as much as a matter of faith and justice. Dr. Max Carter, welcome to BridgeBuilders. We are talking building bridges about a subject people don't normally talk about, and that is the Underground Railroad, the participation of not just one group of people, but a lot of people. And you have been studying the Quaker connection.
I have, right. In part because I am a Quaker, and my great-great-grandparents were conductors on the Underground Railroad up in Indiana. And I grew up in an area in Indiana that was one of the main stations, the routes that went through Indiana to Canada.
Dr. Israel, what a bridge you're building. You're looking at times that we don't even talk about much anymore, and that's the time of slavery. Tell me about your mission.
I'm trying to recreate the Underground Railroad as a historical event, or let's say a development, and to bring in as much as possible the various elements, all the people groups of people who were involved, and to really examine how they work together, the networks, especially the free African Americans or free black people, as they were called at that time, who were part of the Underground Railroad in the Piedmont. And when I came here to work at Guilford College, where it's the center of Quakerism in this part of the country, there were many stories around all the time about Levi Coffin and the Quakers.
Levi Coffin got his start as an abolitionist at age 7, bringing food to fugitives hiding out on his family's North Carolina farm. He grew up to be a successful merchant, and as a station master, helped more than 3,300 slaves reach free states. When you think of that time and what people were doing, there was a whole different sense of humanity.
For Quakers, it came from a theological belief that there's that light of God in everyone. It's the root of our radical understanding of equality, that everyone's radically equal because there's that light of God in everyone. We take John's gospel pretty seriously.
In 1850, Congress passed the Fugitive Slave Act, which made the hunting down of escaped slaves, even in free states, legal. Freelance bounty hunters were employed, and abuses like the abduction of freeborn blacks was common. At the very least, any person aiding a runaway slave with food or shelter was liable to 6 months in jail, seizure of property, and a $500 penalty. The Underground Railroad was created to circumvent that law.
This was a massive interracial civil disobedience movement that doesn't get the credit it ought to, because we think more about the civil rights period of the 1950s, the bus boycott in Montgomery, the sit-ins right here in Greensboro at the Woolworths. But 150 years before that, there was this massive interracial civil disobedience movement of blacks and whites, various denominations and non-denominations working together in this unlawful activity.
They did have connections so that the networks were informal. They had to be. They left very few records. They had to do that in order to protect themselves. But there is evidence. I'm finding it very slowly but surely in the court records where they would accuse people of Negro stealing, as they called it, who were actually helping people escape, and they were connected with others. And those connections, I'm saying, that's what's exciting about this.
Those connections were essential, as the Quakers needed to stay in constant communication with members of the underground to move escapees along the routes as quickly as possible, despite the constantly changing risks.
In my research, I've seen evidence of how when one family couldn't take care of the fugitives, they would signal other folk who would come in and take care of them. People had each other's backs. You can't do this alone. When you take a look at the history of the Underground Railroad, the risks people took, this was life and death for a lot of folk.
The Quakers were indeed a tight-knit community, held together by a belief that they had to live each moment by the tenets of their religion, rules to live by that were challenged by the dangerous activities in which they were involved.
People had to be very clever because, especially among Quakers, there are these very important testimonies that we have. One is peace. Slavery is a violent institution. It's maintained by violence. And so the Quaker peace testimony said you've got to avoid all manner of violence, including you can't use violence to protect those folks that you are harboring if you're a conductor. But you also have this testimony of integrity, of truth-telling. You don't tell lies. You're supposed to be truthful at all times. So how do you keep all those balls in the air?
One of the stories that always intrigues me has to do with the slave wagons. The use of young boys in pottery. Can you talk to me about that?
One of the great stories of the use of those false bottom wagons, that Levi Coffin had one, and he was transporting 2 fugitives, passengers, guests he called them, in his false bottom wagon from his station onto the next. He's stopped by a slave chaser who doesn't have the proper papers to check it out, but figures a Quaker's got to be honest, this integrity thing. So if I ask him a direct question, he's got to answer me honestly. And that day, fortunately, Levi Coffin was carrying some clay pots in the cargo bay of this wagon. And the slave chaser makes a mistake, of asking him this direct question. Okay, Coffin, I know what you're up to. What are you really carrying in the bottom of that wagon? Coffin looks back at his clay pots and says, earthen vessels. I'm just carrying earthen vessels, which clay pots are, but so are we. So again, it's that you had to be clever. You didn't want to lie. You couldn't betray the folk who were there in that secret compartment.
Help from the Underground Railroad was critical, but the path to freedom was still daunting for those trying to escape.
From here, where we're taping this, in the Piedmont of North Carolina, to the next free state, it's about 450 miles. The first passengers of the Underground Railroad here that we know of, John Demery in 1819, took 6 weeks to make that trip from here to Indiana. And you don't have maps. There's no GPS in your walking stick. You've got bloodhounds that may be on your way. You're traveling by night, you're sleeping by day. There aren't roads. There are vigilante groups, headhunters in every little town. There aren't highways. How do you get from here to there? You've been kept illiterate by law, so you can't read maps. You can't read instructions. You've been told orally that if you get to a fork in the road, if you're on the Underground Railroad, which fork you take is crucial. You know there's going to be a tree next to that fork with a nail 3 feet above ground on the side that you take.
They disguised themselves very effectively. They used a disguise of being free black people. That was one of the main ways I'm discovering that people escaped. They would change clothes, take off the slave rags, and put on garments that they had taken from their so-called owners to disguise themselves as normal travelers. They would hide in the woods, but they would take the roads. They would go with travelers, and they would have counterfeit papers. I found that extremely important.
As the abolitionist movement grew, some Quaker leaders began to question whether their involvement in unlawful activities at any level was still in keeping with their religious beliefs.
There were many Quakers involved in the Underground Railroad and resisting, but there were also many who said, no, in fact, we cannot break the law.
You are a bridge builder in that this is a conversation most people don't have and they never will have. How important is it to you to get this story told?
This story of the Underground Railroad and how people kept all those balls in the air, the fact that it was a massive interracial civil disobedience movement, all of this is important because today we face major issues that challenge our own morals, that challenge our own ability to find the courage. We need these stories to encourage us. These stories illustrate that. We need to be able to speak truth to power in our day.
I'm Justice Henry Fry. What it means to me is it's a time to bring to the attention of people, and people of all colors, the contributions that African Americans have made to this country and to the world. And once a year, whether it's a week or a month or 2 weeks, it's just important to reflect upon those accomplishments.
FOX8's celebration of Black History Month is sponsored by Honda dealers of the Carolinas. Excitement comes standard with the Honda Accord, and so does a turbocharged engine. Sophisticated, high-tech, style that enhances functionality. Stand out with the Honda Accord. From Honda, the most awarded brand in Car and Driver 10 Best history. Contact your Honda dealer today or shop online.
These were dangerous times for black men and women in South Africa.
In the Deep South, it is a dog whistle for Confederacy keeping things the way they were.
Leaders of the white minority marginalized, terrorized the black majority with murders, beatings, bombings, and torture.
This story of the Underground Railroad, the fact that it was a massive interracial civil disobedience movement, all of this is important.
The racists in the apartheid government were well aware of my friendship with their high-profile prisoner. Resistance leader Nelson Mandela.
Today, we face major issues that challenge our own morals, that challenge our own ability to find the courage.
My suggestion to you is to do what you think is right.
Join us in celebrating Justice Henry and Shirley Fry, a powerhouse couple whose list of firsts is as long as their commitment to justice and equality. From civic leadership to groundbreaking legal achievements, their journey began as students of North Carolina A&T State University. Their wedding day, marked by a voting rights denial, ignited a lifelong crusade against Jim Crow laws. Henry Fry's trailblazing path after graduating law school led him to become a key figure in dismantling the very laws that once suppressed him. Shirley Fry boldly led the desegregation of Greensboro's YWCA, establishing a model for YWCAs nationwide. She also earned North Carolina's highest civilian award, the Order of the Long Leaf Pine, an award for persons who have made significant contributions to the state and their communities through their exemplary service and exceptional accomplishments. The captivating story of the Frys, whose enduring love and shared dedication to equality not only shaped their extraordinary journey, but also stood as a testament to the value of a resilient family unit. Here's Carol Andrews with Henry and Shirley Fry, a couple who embody the ethos of BridgeBuilders in their relentless fight for equality.
With a love story spanning nearly 65 years, Henry and Shirley Fry are the hallmark of partnership. Tell me how you met.
You gonna believe me or Henry?
I believe you.
He was a sophomore here at A&T, and I came as a freshman, and I decided to join the debating team, and Henry was already on there, and we have the annual freshman-sophomore debate. And I cannot remember what we were arguing, but what I can remember is that they selected the best speaker. And who was the best speaker, Henry?
A young lady named Shirley.
He asked me to go to a dance with his fraternity, Kappa Alpha Psi, and then we started dating from that point on.
You guys were together a lot, but then you were also in the Air Force, so you had to go away. Tell me about that time, please.
First of all, I got a commission as a lieutenant in the United States Air Force. And of course, I had to serve. So I went to Korea and served some time in Korea, but not long because my unit was transferred to Japan. She wrote a letter to me every day.
The two married shortly after college and briefly settled in Henry's hometown of Ellerbe, North Carolina.
When Henry asked me to marry him, I asked him not to get involved in politics and to take me to his hometown of Ellerbe. He asked me why was it that I didn't want him to get involved in politics. And my answer was that I didn't know whether I could take the criticism that comes with politics. And his response to me was, if you're not doing anything, you'll be criticized. If you're doing something, you'll be criticized. So my suggestion to you is to do what you think is right. And we made a pact that we would always discuss things with each other before we did that, and that's what we did.
That pact had more than just talking to each other. It was time that you were going to spend with each other.
Whatever we did on the weekend, it would be with family, with each other, and no matter what. And I broke the pact. I was elected to the National Board of the YWCA. The meetings were in New York, and I would have to leave Greensboro on Thursday and come back on Sunday. And here we were. And I told him that I couldn't sleep when I was in New York, and that in order for me to do a good job as a board member, I'd love for him to come and join me, because if he was also practicing law, and if he could join me. And so he said, well, you know, I think about that. And so he did.
Despite their decision for Henry not to get involved in politics, an unexpected turn of events put them not only inside politics, but on the front line.
I really had no intention in the beginning of getting into politics.
Fry had been denied his voter registration on his wedding day. He failed a so-called literacy test that history would show as a Jim Crow-era suppression tactic designed to keep blacks away from the polls. That incident and the encouragement of others served as the catalyst of Fry's legislative career.
We had 2 or 3 blacks to run for the legislature, and they lost. So we had no African American at that time. Hadn't had it for a long time in the legislature. So I decided, after several friends asked me to run, and I ran for the legislature. And guess what? I lost the first time. So without going into all the detail, 2 years later, I ran and won.
That moment in time would mark the beginning of many major achievements for Henry Fry. His election to the North Carolina General Assembly in 1968 made him the first African American to hold a seat since the 1800s, the first in the 20th century.
It was quite different going to the legislature because in addition to that, I was already doing a lot of other things, including trying to open a bank.
In 1983, after more than a decade in the state legislature, Fry accomplished another first, the first African American sworn in as a North Carolina Supreme Court justice. Yet it would be another 16 years before the history books would document his biggest career achievement ever.
I, Henry E. Fry,
do solemnly and sincerely swear.
Do solemnly and sincerely swear.
That I will support the Constitution of the United States.
That I will support the Constitution of the United States.
That I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina.
That I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina. So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. Chief Justice.
With Shirley by his side, Henry Fry took his oath as Chief Justice of the North Carolina Supreme Court in 1999, making him the first African American in North Carolina state history to ever hold that position.
Most of you know that I grew up on a farm near Ellaby in Richmond County. A farmer told me that when you see a turtle sitting atop a fence post, you know that he didn't get there by himself. I know that I didn't get here by myself. I had a lot of help along the way. Mother and father, who without a high school education worked hard to provide a decent life for their children. They taught us not to give up when the going is tough. Some excellent teachers who believed in me and told me that I could be whatever I wanted to be.
Always teaching, always sharing, but you were the first, and that means a lot to a lot of people. So when you talk about it, how do you describe being the first?
One of the things that I tried to do while I was there was trying to get people generally, and especially African Americans and other minorities and so forth, to believe that they could make a difference and that they could improve themselves, but they could also go to higher offices and things of that nature, that it was open to everybody, but you have to work for it. I spent a lot of time meeting with small groups of people to talk about what needs to be done and how to get it done. I hope that made a positive difference.
Both of you have paved the way for so many. Talk about what it means to be a bridge builder.
I think that God placed me on this earth to serve and not to be served. And we've been blessed many, many times. So I want other people to be just as happy and at peace as I have been. And so whenever I see an opportunity to do something, I just do it. And I think about a bridge builder, and I start thinking about Henry, because in his hometown, there is a bridge named for Henry. And I say, he's been a bridge builder, and if you look at it, it's been crossing over to something else.
If people were to describe the Frys, How would you want them to describe the two of you?
I wanted to say they did the best they could do to make the best of whatever came before them.
I feel that whatever ability you have that will help people, you should use it. And use it well, use it wisely, but use it with significance.
Black History Month holds a profound significance for me. This month is a time to reflect on the achievements, resilience, and invaluable contributions of the Black community. We stand committed to fostering a police force that serves and protects all members of our diverse community, ensuring justice and respect for every individual, regardless of their background. Together, let us honor the past, acknowledge the present, and work towards a future of true equality and inclusivity.
FOX8's celebration of Black History Month is sponsored by Biscuitville.
Celebrating Black History Month at Biscuitville has been a tradition of ours for over a decade. Our bookmarks highlight outstanding local and nationally known African Americans. We are honored to share this with our guests to raise awareness around the unlimited achievements and contributions African Americans have made. We are pleased to continue this tradition by highlighting an incredible contributor as well as an outstanding restaurant operator. We do this to express our appreciation and gratitude to all who richly add to our communities.
Early in the morning, every minute counts. That's why we give you a forecast every 8 minutes. Why wait? Get your weather every 8 minutes. Weekday mornings from 5 to 7 a.m. only on the Fox 8 Morning News. Start local, stay local.
FOX8 proudly celebrates Black History Month. Join us Monday at 7:30 as we honor the achievements and legacies of African Americans in the Triad. Honoring Black History, Monday at 7:30 on Fox 8.
Side by side, every day. We'll go far as long as we got each other to discover this world we're making now together. So let's start today.
Our next bridge builder is Bishop Sir Walter Lee Mack Jr., dynamic, charismatic, spiritual lightning rod, civic mover and shaker, author of 4 books, recipient of numerous awards and honors. Just a hint of what you're in store for. Bishop Mack is a committed pastor and teacher whose vision and love of God and people is expansive enough to reach the nations and microscopic enough to touch individuals on a personal level. He serves as pastor and teacher of Union Baptist Church in Winston-Salem. Educated at Elon University and Harvard, he was a guest lecturer and roundtable participant at Oxford University and Oxford, England. He's called upon by churches and organizations to develop strategies and formulate ministries worldwide. Additionally, he analyzes corporate culture and imparts guidance and spirituality in the workplace, and consultation in culture awareness and diversity. His insight and skills have been used in dozens of Fortune 500 companies. And as you'll discover, his activism as a highly respected civic leader has changed the course of history in Winston-Salem. Now, bridge builder, Bishop Sir Walter Lee Mack Jr. with Valanda Calloway.
From the outside, Union Baptist in Winston-Salem looks like any other megachurch in the country. But take a look and a listen to the spirit of the people on the inside, and it's easy to understand why this church is anything but ordinary. The church's leader, Bishop Sir Walter Mack Jr., is a bridge builder who recognizes that in order to bring people to church and keep them there, he must acknowledge their body, mind, and spirit.
I think bridge building is very important, bridging gaps, building bridges to help people navigate their lives and to become the best person that they can possibly become.
Bishop Mack earned a Master of Divinity degree from Duke University and a Doctor of Ministry from United Theological Seminary. He completed a continuing education program at Harvard University, which focused on economic development and community revitalization. He was also a guest lecturer and roundtable participant at Oxford University in Oxford, England. His global work began with international mission trips to Haiti and Israel, working with chaplains and ministers from more than 120 countries. His insight and skills have been used at Tyson Foods, American Express, his alma mater, Elon College, the National Urban League, the NAACP, and more. Mac's holistic approach ensures he and his church assist with the most basic of needs.
I wanted to talk a little bit about all the amazing things you do here in the church to serve the people. And part of that is making sure they're clothed and fed and fulfilled as humans. Tell me more about that.
Years ago, we purchased some apartments for affordable housing. So we have some apartments located here on the campus. But beside that is our food and clothing bank. That last year we were able to service close to 20,000 people. The pandemic shifted so much economically and put people in a very precarious place.
The COVID-19 pandemic meant the church had to step up to serve a more diverse group of people than usual.
For the first time after the pandemic, I went down and I saw BMWs, I saw Mercedes-Benz in line for assistance. We wanted to make sure that we would rise up and meet that need.
Bishop Mack especially wants to make a difference when it comes to young people and education.
A crisis that we're having is that we have children who can't read. From grades 1 to 3, you learn to read. From grades 4 to 12, you read to learn. And so now you have children that can't literally read by the 3rd grade, which becomes a pipe system to our prisons. So many people cherish Sunday school and reading about, well, in the future, there will probably be no Sunday school if we can't get our children to read.
This realization led Bishop Mack to start the Rise Up and Read initiative.
Many community leaders, fraternities, sororities, business owners, churches, pastors came together to address this issue. When they signed on to our campaign, it has been tremendous as a result of this community impact.
Sandy Brown is a Union Baptist member who knows firsthand why it is critical for young people to have adults in their lives who believe in them and who step in to bridge the gaps.
My father was a stern disciplinarian. He was an educator. Usually whatever I did didn't really measure up good enough for his standards. So that influenced me heavily and, of course, trickled over into other areas where I just didn't feel that I was good enough.
Sandy wanted to feel like she was good enough and like she belonged. That led her to abuse alcohol and to later fall into crack cocaine addiction.
I remember it clearly at a house party. I was 15 and we were dancing and somebody passed me a can of malt liquor and I drank it. It was cold, it was good, and I felt like I was belonging in the party.
Sandy was an addict for years. She abandoned her daughter and she used drugs while pregnant with her son. That was her rock bottom. It took decades, but Sandy got the treatment she needed and has been clean for 17 years. Now she is able to help other people just like her through a program Bishop Mack established called Corner to Corner.
When he had a Corner to Corner conference and asked me to be a part of it, I spoke to a group of women because I had already come through treatment and was clean maybe 2 or 3 years. So doing that, I felt such a surge of energy connecting with women who were just 1 degree away removed from where I had been.
Christ has to be in culture. The Corner to Corner conference came out of an experience on a Sunday morning. We were having awesome worship in the sanctuary. So much so until when I got up to preach, literally, I could not begin my sermon because of the enthusiasm and the power and the strength of that service. But right after church, Right in back of the church, I saw a young man selling drugs. And so it hit me, how is it that we can have all of this power in the sanctuary and can't reach this little brother right here selling drugs on a Sunday?
In the church parking lot?
And it's right across the street from the church.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Bishop Mack says he prayed and asked God for direction. He was led to call a meeting with former drug dealers.
I said, what do y'all think we can do? And we all came up with the idea of having a conference. So we had the corner-to-corner drug dealers and street life conference. We met with the community. We met with guys on the corners. We met with judges in our city. I met with city council, and many people didn't think it would ever happen. But for our first conference, we had 147 drug dealers sitting in church for 3 days. Talk to them about the legacy, the gift in them, making good choices, and making a change in their life. And after 3 days, it was just absolutely awesome.
Bishop Mack's care and concern for the church community also extends to social justice. Mack was invited to speak at a meeting of city, business, and church leaders designed to bridge gaps and deal with race matters. He knew this was the time to address the name of the annual county fair.
So on that particular Saturday, I mentioned that in order for us to bring this thing together, we got to deal with those symbols that represent division, and Dixie Classic Fair was one of those.
Mack followed up that meeting with a petition to have the name of the fair changed.
In the Deep South, it is a dog whistle for Confederacy, keeping things the way they were, and racial divide.
I think we should keep the word Dixie because it's Southern heritage. If you're born in the South, it's your heritage. And like the man said back here, Dixie's all over the place. It doesn't necessarily, if that hurts your feelings, then I don't know what to tell you. It's everywhere.
Thank you. My name is Sir Walter Mack, a pastor at Union Baptist Church, 1200 North Trade Street, live in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. When the state of Louisiana removes symbols of Dixie, when the state of Mississippi refuses to sing the song Dixie, when South Carolina removes the symbol of the Dixie by the Confederate flag, when you have Alabama, who is now no longer using it as a fight song, it is time for Winston-Salem, North Carolina to join the other Dixie states and remove Dixie from our fair. It is a symbol of hate. It is a symbol of separation and division.
Your time is up. Please wrap
I
up your
rest my
comments.
case. Take it down.
People saying very derogatory things on social media about myself, about the ministry, wanting to keep that name for heritage's sake. But I'm thankful that our city was progressive enough with the leadership of our mayor and the city council and other business owners to change the name Dixie Classic Fair to the Carolina Classic Fair. And it represents a broader community. It represents family and children coming together. We're thankful that God used us, our ministry, to spur that change and to make a difference in our city, because that's what Bridging Gaps is all about.
Bishop Sir Walter Mack Jr.'s life has been all about purpose and passion coming together.
My life has been centered around, one, identifying what God is doing in my life, but also how I could help bridge gaps and make life better for other people.
Whether inside this church, in the neighborhood surrounding it, or the greater Winston-Salem area, Bishop Sir Walter Mack Jr. is changing lives for the better, and that is why he is a bridge builder.
When you pray. Come on, let's give the Lord a hand praise. Hallelujah.
The world's brightest are Fulbrights, Goldwaters, McNairs, and Spartans. Prestigious doesn't have to be expensive. UNCG, find your way here.
Black History Month is really an educational month, both to remind ourselves of the historical importance of Greensboro, but also to educate the broader community about our history in a more robust way. Black History Month also affords us a specific opportunity to reimagine our future and ask ourselves, what kind of country do we want to live in?
Fox 8 celebration of Black History Month is sponsored by UNCG.
The world's brightest are Fulbrights, Goldwaters, McNairs, and Spartans. Prestigious doesn't have to be expensive. UNCG, find your way here.
These were dangerous times for black men and women in South Africa.
In the Deep South, it is a dog whistle for Confederacy keeping things the way they were.
Leaders of the white minority marginalized, terrorized the black majority with murders, beatings, bombings, and torture.
This story of the Underground Railroad, the fact that it was a massive interracial civil disobedience movement, all of this is important.
The racists in the apartheid government were well aware of my friendship with their high-profile prisoner, resistance leader Nelson Mandela.
Today, we face major issues that challenge our own morals, that challenge our own ability to find the courage.
My suggestion to you is to do what you think is right.
We certainly hope you've enjoyed the program. And remember, bridge building is a symbolic pathway of opportunity. Any one of us can make a difference as an influencer by empowering others to achieve greatness in their lives. I'd like to leave you with a passage from a poem called Building the Bridge, written in 1898 by Will Allen Drumgoole. The builder lifted his old gray head. Good friend, in the path I have come, he said, there followeth after me today a youth whose feet must pass this way, this chasm that has been naught to me. To that fair-haired youth may a pitfall be. He too must cross in the twilight dim. Good friend, I'm building this bridge for him.